Oh my goodness. Welcome, everyone. I see lots of people coming in from the waiting room. I'm going to welcome you and keep admitting all of our audience for this evening. You're welcome to turn on your camera, but I do ask that you keep the microphone muted. My name is Naya Bricker. I am the administration and technology assistant for the evening. Welcome to Wilder Words. We're so glad to have you here. I see a few more people coming into the waiting room. Please take a moment and get settled, grab some water, find a comfortable seat. I'm just going to go over some housekeeping tips. Hello, familiar friends and faces. It's great to see you. So tonight we are in a Zoom meeting, so you have a chance to let the audience see your faces. Usually we have a webinar for some of our virtual events, but we thought it'd be a little bit more personal to open it up. But you are in control of your microphone. So if it is accidentally unmuted and there's some noise, I will be muting you just so we don't distract the readers. If you have any technical issues, feel free to use the chat and message me. I can help you out. I'm also going to be keeping an eye on my email. My email is also the technical support link, virtualevents@foc.org. And I think that was distributed in all of our pre-registration emails. And I don't have too much more to add other than I'm thrilled that you're here, as are my colleagues on the call. Jennifer Jean, our manager of the 24 Pearl Street online writing program. And my colleague, our executive director, Sharon Poley, is also in the audience tonight. And I think without any further commentary from me, I will pass it over to Jennifer for the fun stuff.
Thank you, Naya. It is good to see, it's actually not good, it's great to see everybody. I love seeing all your faces. I'm super happy to welcome you to Wilder Words. And as Naya said, I'm Jennifer Jean, the program manager of 24 Pearl Street, the Fine Arts Work Center's online writing program. I just want to start by saying that FOC misses you all. And actually, we have a lot in the works for everyone in our community, including a new look for our campus, a new look for our website coming up, our 2022 summer program catalog launch coming up, and 24 Pearl Street's 2022 winter session launch, also upcoming. So we'll also have a winter faculty Wilder Words reading early on in 2022, so stay tuned for that date to be announced. You can keep up with all of FOC's doings and goings on our website by signing up for our newsletter at foc.org/24. That's where you'll find our fall catalog, where we've amazing poetry, fiction, memoir, multi-genre workshops, including a Saturday sprint workshop, which is a whole new kind of thing for us. We're very, very happy about it, which will feature Amy Nezukumatato. The details about that are to be announced, so stay tuned again for our newsletter. That's why it's important to sign up for that. So today we have 5 of our fabulous fall faculty reading tonight for all of you, and they're reading works that explore ecological impulses, which are human interactions with or urges towards nature. And I actually told them all that they could broadly interpret what ecological impulses is. It's just a phrase that, to be honest, I made up, and I just felt like resonated with what folks are concerned about these days, which is things having to do with ecology and climate. So throughout the reading, as I introduce each reader, FOC's office manager, who you met, Naya, she'll be posting links to where you can purchase each of the reader's latest book. And the links lead to East End Books, which is an independently owned bookstore near the Fine Arts Work Center in Provincetown. Of course, we want to do our part to support independent businesses, but especially independent bookstores. At the end of each reading, I am going to let you all know the title and dates of the reader's upcoming fall workshop. I think only one of our readers has one going on right now this week, but the other readers, the other 4, have upcoming workshops. So this is a great way to get to know them and their work, and to see, if you'd like to take their upcoming workshop. And you can find more about their workshops, as I said before, in the fall 24 Pearl Street online catalog. Okay, as we begin, I'm just going to say it again, as Naya said, make sure you've muted your mic. And now let's get started. The readers are going to be reading in alphabetical order. So we are going to be starting with Elisa Albert, who is the author of the novels Human Blues, which is forthcoming in 2022. She actually gave us a sneak peek to it beforehand, and I'm so excited about it. So look for Human Blues next year, as well as Afterbirth and the Book of Dahlia. Her prose has been published in Tin House, the New York Times, and the Paris Review. She won the Moment Magazine Debut Fiction Award and is a literary deathmatch champion. Please join me in welcoming Elisa Albert.
Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer. Okay, so I am going to read from a short story that was published in Michigan Quarterly Review a year and a half, 2 years ago. Winter 2020. It was like the before time. It is from the perspective of a 101-year-old lady in the year 2079. It begins with, I had a little epigraph here from Denise Levertov. And since I'm with poets tonight, I'll just read this little epigraph. No one can walk the world anymore, a world of fumes and decibels, but she thinks maybe she could get to be tough and wise some way anyway. Denise Levertov. Okay, Old Lady 2079. What do you want me to tell you, dumpling? That we were ejected all of a sudden from the Garden of Eden into the cruel diaspora of now? You want to hear about some turning point, the very moment things went awry? Oh, sweetheart, oh, nut butter, there was no one bad thing. There were so many bad things. Poor Eve, she just wanted knowledge. She was hungry to know. As are we all, Moonbeam, as are we all. Things have always been terrible. That's the good news. Remember, you still live in a body, a human body, and we are mixed bags at best, but they still can't improve on us. We're the best worst, the worst best. There got to be too many of us is all. We sustained ourselves unsustainably. I'm so glad you've come to visit, Lovebug. Your sister never comes. What is it with her? All that bullshit about machine rights, all that consciousness equality nonsense. Well, what do you expect when you're raised on feed? She'll get hers. Live long enough, and life turns all your likes and dislikes and agrees and disagrees inside out. When I was born, machines were gigantic. They took up rooms. They couldn't do hardly anything, and there wasn't any machine consciousness, though the storytellers all saw that coming. Then the machines got smaller and smaller, and before we knew it, bam, all machines, all the time, everywhere, in everything. We were thrilled, believe it or not, captivated. From the weather to the church to the machine flower bud, we've always been enthralled by something. Beautiful day. November used to be cold. Overture for winter. Winter was a season. This part of the world was known for having 4 of them. Seasons. Oh, they were nice. You could sort of live your life according to their rhythms. A lot of civilization had sort of organized itself that way. Things were born in spring, they frolicked and came of age in the summer, ripened and bore fruit, gave spectacular final push of good stuff. That was called the harvest. And then everything rested and waited. The dark time, the cold time, the quiet time, the thinking time, that was winter. And just when you started to lose hope, rebirth. It was cool. No more. I watched it go. No one gave a crap. I mean, some people gave a crap. Some of us used to sort of talk about how awful it was that no one gave a crap, but the feeds kept us all pretty occupied until, what do you know, it was done. So why are you asking me this? High school history. They still let you take history? The word history comes from the Greek for narrative, which means finding out, or learned, wise person. Oh, will you look at that? Your little whatever the fuck concurs with my etymology. Great job, little whatever the fuck. Oh, fuck off, you ugly little machine. You think I'm scared of you? Everyone's so scared of you, aren't they? With all your little fucking records and your perfect fucking recall. Don't want to come off as cranky now. Wouldn't want you to categorize me as ungracious or impolitic or anything. But haha, fuck you. I'm going to die soon. I'm older than shit. Bite me. Still can't do much about death now, can you? No. Ha. Ooh, would your sister be angry to hear me talk to a machine that way? What can I tell you, Love Dust? History is now, and now. People forgot to listen to old people. We do get a little weirder as the years went on, a little less linear, I suppose. The great feminization of age. It ain't for everybody, but hey, old age must be better than the alternative. Or is it? I don't know. So nice not to know. Exhausting knowing everything, don't you think? No. Don't ask your little whatever the fuck. That fucking thing can't tell you what's in your mind. Or can it? Shit, don't answer that. Oh, don't get that look on your face. I'm not going to get between you and your little fucking thing. I wouldn't dare. You're safe, little fucker. The same year your father was born, I got the first one, the very first on the market. Those puppies were all the rage, big as my palm. I had a great time with that fucker, let me tell you. I get it. I know it's nice to be in the stream. I liked my feed, same as everyone else. I liked the way it made me feel like I was accomplishing something all the time. Busy. At first, we didn't know about the mind control, and by the time we realized it was too late, bunch of voluntary lab rats with our attention just leaking all over the place. God, I put up so many pictures of your dad as a baby. I cuddled him and I cuddled that little fucker all day, every day, which makes me sad now. What wouldn't I give to have a single hour of time back with my darling, precious firstborn, snug in my arms, no little fucker in sight. Pleased to meet you. First generation feed head, right here, pleasure's all mine. Ask me no questions and I'll tell you no lies. But doesn't every generation get to bear witness to something extraordinary? My parents saw the beginning of chemical birth control, the atmosphere cats cradled into oblivion with the advent of commercial jet travel. My grandparents saw the fucking atomic bomb. Their parents saw fucking industrialization. You, plum pie, you're going to see some shit too. I'm afraid of what, but I shouldn't be, because A, I'll be dead, and B, one day it will be funny and quaint in light of whatever will have transpired to eclipse it. Ha! Worrying is just praying to the devil, a blues singer I once spent a little quality naked human skin contact time with used to say. Worry feeds the feeds. Nom nom, worry, ka-ching, ka-ching. Naked human skin contact time still exists, I gather? Believe it or not, Dumpling, people used to make it up as they went along. People used to act on impulse and like emotion and desire. It was a dance. It was different every time with every person. Ideally. I mean, sometimes it was terrible. A lot of times it was terrible. When it wasn't terrible, that was how you sort of knew to stick with that person. It used to be a sort of secret, hidden thing, forbidden by degrees, depending on your family and religion and stuff. Religion was where people tried in a formally organized way not to be total assholes, but since a lot of huge assholes were also often very drawn to it, it wound up never working super well. Anyway, once they started selling videos of the naked quality human skin time on a mass scale, people gradually forgot how to do it their own way. And the videos took over, people just kind of memorized, reenacted, and then the rise of the reproductive technicians. It all fit together like a puzzle. Okay, I'll stop there. It goes on for a while. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That was amazing. Thank you. Okay, so we are going to introduce our next reader. Okay. So next up, we have Rebecca Morgan Frank, whose fourth book of poems is Oh, You Robot Saints. She was a finalist for the Kate Tufts Discovery Award, and her poems have appeared in The New Yorker, American Poetry Review, and the Kenyon Review. She's the co-founder and editor of the journal Memorious, and she teaches in Northwestern University's MFA program. Please welcome up Rebecca Morgan Frank.
Well, thank you so much, Jennifer, and that was wonderful, Elisa, and I'm just grateful to the Fine Arts Work Center and all my fellow readers to be here tonight. My ecological impulse is robot. I'm going to be reading from my new book, Oh You Robot Saints, which explores the human desire to create life over thousands of years, from automata to robots. And I'm going to focus my reading today on the imitation of natural creatures of animals, and I'll stay away from the humans. And I was thinking as I was preparing for this, my first job out of college was as an environmental educator, and I worked with a hawk and fed and flew her, and she creeps into my work every once in a while. So this is a hawk from a handsaw. The truth is that either one can cut the flesh and rip in jagged precision. Each one can depend on a hand extended, the falconer's falling glove, the worker's callus. The truth is in the job, not the wound. For to the manor born, the reach knows its risk. You can keep them both in the shed behind the house, feed one and oil the other. That which in you that was cut from flight, that which severed. As I was exploring the world of old automata, this my favorite one, which is so gorgeous, and you can look this up on YouTube, or I also compiled on my website some links to the real automata and robots in this. And this is the gorgeous Silver Swan automaton, circa 1773, and one of the few older ones you can see move. Swans are known to be nasty, strong and vicious enough to kill a goose, a man, their own, a whole bevy of their kind. But she is forged to be wondrous. I iced her feathers with silver, so what came from deep in the earth could touch the heavens, welded 113 silver chokers, so that she shone with supple thirst and hunt and grace, bending her neck to poach the glittering fish from spinning glass. She tucks her shiny fins away to make you think I've fed her, given her the hunger of real flesh. It's true a swan mates for life, but she'll outlive me, survive long after my own mechanisms wear out. She's driven by the music of the crank, turned solely by the human hand. Every day she begins again, and the people surround her and gape and gasp, but I've already made her a living death. She'll never fly or make life as I have. This next one, just kind of moving into our time, is about an invasive species, the lionfish, and the human-made robot predator we have created. Lionfish robot. Its beauty may paralyze you there in the deep, all spine and line and hunger, hoovering up the eggs, the little fish, lobster, grouper, snapper. The list keeps growing of those shrinking at the mouth of this sexed up invader, mating and feeding the reefs into oblivion. So we'll rip out those vicious little spears and adorn ourselves, suck it up with our giant robot lips, try to destroy the flamboyant manes we brought here to the wrong ocean to begin with. We will build a silicone doppelganger of this little destroyer, make it blood vessels to fill, fuel it with something like our blood, fuel it to travel faster, last longer. This is the first step. Worm. You move within this flesh as if a burrowing of earth you've made, fester, you feast on us, in us, become gods, servicing our reincarnation, our passage through dirt to a moving life and back to dirt. And now your brain is mirrored to make a robot move like you, wiggling and worming like flesh, becoming a worm army in armor. Are we our bodies or our minds? Are we the worm or the robot shell? Say it again, the meek shall inherit the earth. This next poem, I feel like I've had to add a note. When I was reading when the book came out in February, I realized people thought that everything was imagined. And in this next poem, these are all things that are in some form of development or exist. So this is your poem for nightmares, perhaps. Not everybody else's bestiary yet. Then came the soft animals, the snake and octopus slinking along. You've seen the octopus as escape artists sneaking out of cracks and holes, hiding in a teapot, plotting the big adventure. Now she moves through chemical reaction, the first soft robot to take to the sea, while the real thing once disassembled her own aquarium, waiting in a puddle to be found. Now imagine her robot double dismantling at will that which we tried to contain, swimming off into the deep, re-emerging like the snake that slithers into your garden in trapezoidal kirigami skin. Its cuts keep it crawling through bursts of air. In innocuous slinky and colorful garb, this robot can sidewind anywhere. Now ask why everything harbors a weapon in your mind. Do you dread the snake under your own bed? Is it the real tooth and venom you fear, or this programmed body double here? We're told of a fault built on flesh, the flesh of a fruit, the flesh of a woman. Now this man-made flesh, a reptilian test of applied knowledge, industrial sin. Enter the latest sensation. A cockroach robot sliding through the cracks to get to you, away from you. Extinction has been eradicated, bought, replacements are on order. Enter Robotanica, the world of the wild robot. Woodpecker, dragonfly, kangaroo, child. Unborn, they can all do the job, 2 by 2, battery powered to keep the world moving, replacing their organic prototypes, centipedes, spiders, termites, and bees. These are just the beginnings of the evolving robo-nation, as if someone has decided to revise, start over, this time using human labor and invention. And here's one more creature. This is at the V&A in London, a mechanical tortoise with Triton rider, 17th century. There's an exhausting mechanical plotting. A brass man with a trident rides the tortoise, his body adhered to the gold gilded shell. Even his face has hardened. Why can't we pick up the pace? What if we were to stand up and run? This is a man of the sea. See his tail in place of legs? But look inside, you'll see emptiness. Why not just catch a tortoise and watch it move? Elegy. A mother is a state of mind, like a chick in its nest, content with no awareness it can fall, be nursed or gassed, be kicked to the side or buried, only knows the ache of hunger for her return, what it means to the body to be filled with hunted love. But the cuckoo leaves its young in a stranger's nest, and the brush turkey chick must fend for itself, abandoned in a giant mound. See the slant of the story I tell, as if a mother was meant to have been there, as if the brush turkey chick, flying within moments of hatching and burrowing solo out of the warm encasing of organic matter, could know it had ever been left. I'm going to read one poem from my third book, my previous book, Sometimes We're All Living in a Foreign Country, which I wrote while I was teaching in Mississippi, and just kind of turning to the trees a little bit. And there was a super fun site there that had to do with the pines. We were in the piney woods and what turns them into telephone poles. So this is called Piney Woods. It's been more than 100 years told since someone first discovered what a pine could do. It took more than half that time to realize the way remnants of a tree could kill. A forest and the preservation of its fells could become something evil, stripping the house. They dug up the neighborhood across the tracks, erased all traces of the pine, what each forest had been cooked down to or brined in. They said that all the bad ground is locked up somewhere else, that I can breathe easy on my evening strolls. But every time I've tried to lock away what hurt me, it's seeped back up, the poison now within me to stay. I'm gonna stop there, and thanks so much for listening. I'm so looking forward to the rest of the readers.
Thank you, Morgan. That was so good. So great. Before I introduce our next reader, I want to say that Elisa's workshop, which I meant to tell you all about, is called The Unlikable Narrator, and it's happening on November 15th. It's a 1-week workshop. It's a Zoom workshop. So if you're like me and you loved Elisa's work, check out her course description. Also, Morgan will be teaching not in November, but in October, on October 11th through the 15th. Her workshop is called The Art of Getting Unstuck, Writing Your Way Back into the Poem. Also a live, what we call live workshop, which is a Zoom workshop. And yeah, both are going to be fabulous. You guys have to check them out and sign up. And now I'm going to introduce our next reader. Let's see who's next in the alphabet. All right, we have Allison Joseph, who is the author of several poetry collections, including Confessions of a Barefaced Woman, Worldly Pleasures, and What Keeps Us Here. She teaches at and directs the Southern Illinois University Carbondale MFA program in creative writing, where she also serves as the editor-in-chief and poetry editor of Crab Orchard Review. Join me in welcoming Allison Joseph.
Hello, everyone. It is such an honor and pleasure, first of all, to be reading with these amazing writers, and such an honor and pleasure to be reading to, this has got to be the most distinguished participant list I've ever seen for a Zoom reading. So many of you, I recognize your names and have read your work, and I'm so, so grateful for your presence here. So, the environmental theme of this reading threw me initially because I thought, I don't write about the environment. And then I went back and looked at my work, and lo and behold, I do. So I'm going to read a few poems from across collections. Those who know me, I'm a chapbook queen. I love short collections. So I'm going to be reading from different books and shouting out different publishers who have been kind enough to put my work out there in the world. So the first poem comes from a chapbook called Trace Particles, which was published by Backbone Press, a wonderful press that publishes women and people of color out of North Carolina. And I'm going to read the titled poem because there was a point where I was reading a lot of articles, and my only way of responding to just articles in things like USA Today or the AP was to write a poem. And this poem was prompted by two things. This quote from the AP, and this quote comes back from the Associated Press in 2008. So you can just multiply the effect of this as you're thinking. 2008 sounds like the dark ages. And also a quote from my former colleague and the amazing poet Rodney Jones. So the first epigraph for this poem, Trace Particles, reads, a vast array of pharmaceuticals, including antibiotics, anticonvulsants, mood stabilizers, and sex hormones have been found in the drinking water supplies of at least 41 million Americans, an Associated Press investigation shows. And that's from March 10, 2008. Rodney, being a poet, put it much more succinctly. Everything shed comes back as drinking water. Trace particles. So this sexy, manic euphoria I've been feeling isn't from my own deck of hormones, but could be from yours, your wife's, your unstable teen daughter's, girl with the penchant for pentacles and drum circles, coal raccooning her downcast eyes. How crazy to think my joy's my own and my grief too. How foolish to think something specific and beautiful characterizes my particular misery, when truth is we're all taking in and spilling out what we've been given in the dubious privacy of clinics and bathrooms. What we don't absorb from our pills tossed off by our bodies, flushed away, so we thought, no impact on anyone else. Scientists claim any impacts negligible, no contact highs or lows achieved by lips pursed on faucets, fountains. Spend more money on bottled water and you'll get the same water, only treated, but no refuge from dad's cholesterol meds, mama's tranquilizers. Magazines once mandated 8 glasses of 8 ounces a day for a superior complexion. But could it be my skin's not wholly mine, but partly yours, tempered by what ails and haunts you, the anti-anxiety drugs and the stimulants, more caffeine in suburban water, no surprise. In my blood and yours, little traces of marriages propped up by impotence pills, despair held off for one more night every night by mood stabilizers, beta blockers floating in our veins, relief for some sailors' angina-ravaged heart. Drink deep, drink up, and know a minuscule taste of someone else's sorrows, regrets, last prescription happiness, chances for happiness. As long as we're drinking the water, we're never alone, connected whether we admit it or not, concentrations so tiny they're measured in quantities of parts per billion or trillion, but so ubiquitous, no one can deny we're all floating beyond ourselves, settling where we never thought to go. I'm going to read a few poems now from Lexicon, which is the follow-up to Confessions of a Barefaced Woman, which was a book that, I don't know, I've been writing poems for ages, and all of a sudden to have a book that people actually read was kind of weird. But Lexicon is a book about language. And there was a certain point in my life when my beautiful late husband, John Tribble, was alive, that we watched a lot of cable news. We watched a lot of CNN and MSNBC. We did it. And when you're sort of half listening to what's on the news, all of a sudden things strike you as poetic material. So this is called manufacture. I heard today on CNN that Barbie dolls were made from a chemical now found to be toxic. Imagine blonde dolls with pink tipped smiles emitting lethal rays that brainwash girls into believing that bikinis are goods, math too hard, sliced bread, Western civilization's pinnacle. And supermodels, I bet they too emit poison, bending brain waves in their mini skirts and leg warmers. Their idea of girl power, freedom from stretch marks and Freudian slips. I bet everything in this world is slowly poisoning us. TV sets made from nuclear waste, credit cards, V-chips, microwaves damaging brain cells each time I reheat another chicken pot pie. It's all eventually genocide, isn't it? All the Prozac and waterbeds, all the luncheon meat. I don't know. But I remember my Barbie doll was made of such hard plastic that I could kill any disagreeable playmate just by smacking her upside the head with America's favorite fashion doll. Got a little violent there towards the end. So though I have lived in Illinois for many, many years, I grew up in the New York City borough of the Bronx during the late 70s and early 80s. And my neighborhood was literally on top of a Superfund site. So I just thought that things being ruined and weird was normal. So this poem is an homage to that time. Ruined things. Growing up, I learned to see ruined things as normal, almost beautiful. rusted cars forsaken in driveways, faded awnings flapping loose over 2-story brick storefronts, letters in neon signs flickering, burning out. I learned to follow the ecstatic swirls and curves of graffiti on walls, loving the mutant alphabet sprayed on by street artists, letters swollen as clouds, puffy hieroglyphs. And every empty lot was strewn with what people had failed to take with them, dumped, I thought, for me to explore, poke with a sharp whittled stick. Shreds of skin mags torn in the underbrush, clothes ripped to rags snagged among tree branches, blown tires and dented hubcaps spread out like a welcome in my neighborhood's arid patches. Bronx land, the city left unclaimed. Nothing wrong in being worn, eroded under urban sun and soot, colored, muted in subway stops, bus stations, dust and rust and wear, all honorable to me. Every new building sagging eventually, every new school soon marked by any and every color that could be sprayed on. Nothing left pristine in that cityscape I loved. Nothing clear or clean in all I remember. Lives punctuated by the jagged symmetry of wrecked windows, broken barbed wire. So I'm going to close with 2 poems from this collection, a collection that was done by Mayapple Press, which is a small press, used to be based in Michigan, now in Woodstock, New York. Judith Kerman, wonderful poet, wonderful editor. And I was reading about the notion of the emergency librarian. Now, an emergency librarian is someone who brings books to children when they're in some sort of disaster. So imagine a librarian who supplies children with books in the wake of a hurricane or a tornado or something. And I thought this was the best profession in the world, like an emergency librarian, because often when emergencies happen, we think of food and water and all those necessities, but part of what people need is language and beauty. So this is a tribute to the very concept of the emergency librarian. Emergency librarian. Does she speed up in an ambulance or a bookmobile? Does she dash into neglected neighborhood classrooms, clad in white coat, sensible shoes, yelling, "Get that boy a paperback stat," snatching video games out of sweaty clutches with a single grab? Teachers call her when no ordinary book wrangler will do, confident she'll make readers of the most illiterate, the most belligerent, the bored and sullen. With her, story hour never ends, and her stories send a child around the world and back, a fluid fluency of dialect and custom, alphabets and hieroglyphs. Instead of a stethoscope, she wields a cart laden with books. Literary miracle worker, woman who gets the most hostile child to love reading, eager to teach what he's learned to another new reader, the shyest girl reaching for the brightest picture book, moving from easy readers to 8th grade level in a single afternoon. She can never feed them enough language, enough characters, for they are always wanting more from this sorceress, this priestess, a conjure woman of words in bifocals and turtleneck sweater. So the last poem I'm going to read is a poem comprised entirely of questions, which is a good assignment to give yourself and to give students and give, and the title is Naive Questions, because the questions here are naive. They're simple, but they're also profound. And when I think about the environment the conundrum we're in, that so many of the questions are simple, like why doesn't Flint still have clean water? And it's also profound. So, naive questions. And thank you so much for including me in this community. Naive questions. Why call it ethnic cleansing when nothing ever gets clean? Landscapes replete with slaughtered bodies. Why talk of domestic violence as if violence deserves a home, can be tamed like weeds, like a snarling animal? Why call people who make up most of the world minorities? Why speak of the Electoral College when no one can pass an entrance exam, pay tuition, and then attend? Will an electoral university replace this vexed college? And who will lead this university in this era of double-digit budget cuts? Why capital punishment and corporal punishment, but not corporate punishment? Why do those put on paid leave never actually leave, hold news conferences instead, who can't press, declaring innocence to the press, who can't press anyone to answer anything? Why call people who damage children pedophile when file means lover, bibliophile, audiophile, anglophile? Why do menopause and menstruation contain men? Isn't meningitis enough? Can people be biracial when there's one human race? And if we're only human, all created equal, how can there be a Supreme Court? Thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, Allison. That was fantastic. Thank you. Okay, so I want everyone to know that Allison will be teaching 24 Pearl Street class in December. December 6th is the first day of her class, called Elegy as Healing Art, the role of elegy in healing our wounds. Also a live course run via Zoom. So check that out. And now I want to welcome up and ask you to join me in welcoming up Dorianne Laux, whose 6th collection, Only as the Day is Long, New and Selected Poems, was a finalist for the 2020 Pulitzer Prize for Poetry. She is the co-author of the celebrated teaching text, which I've taught from this text, so I love it, The Poet's Companion, a guide to the pleasures of writing poetry. And she teaches creative writing at North Carolina State University and at Pacific University. Let's welcome up Dorianne Laux.
Hello, everyone. Let me get the sun out of here. I'm probably one of the few on the West Coast, so it's still bright and sunny here. I'm going to read one poem, and then I'm going to read another poem in tandem with Eliza. And so this is a poem called The Ravens of Denali, which is included in the new and selected. And I wrote it when my husband and I drove up to Alaska from California. And the whole time he was talking about ravens. We were seeing a lot of ravens. He was saying, they're so beautiful. They're so amazing. Did you know that ravens can blah, blah. He just, every kind of fact about ravens. And I got so inspired that I started looking up things about ravens. And I ended up writing a poem about it. And I read it to him in the hotel room later that night. And he got so angry. And we were going to be reading soon with Sharon Olds. And so at dinner, he tells Sharon, you know, I'm the one that loved all the ravens. And she ended up writing the poem about it. Just doesn't seem fair. And Sharon said, Joe, you know, it's like putting raw meat on the back porch when you know there's a wolf in town, you know. And so she had no sympathy for him whatsoever. But anyway, so this is the poem that came out of it. It's called The Ravens of Denali. And it's kind of a poem about what's going on with the earth. Such dumb luck to stumble across an unkindness of ravens at play with a shred of clear visqueen fallen from the blown out window of the Denali truck stop and cafe. Black wings gathered in the deserted parking lot below the Assembly of God. Ravens at play in the desolate fields of the Lord, under the tallest mountain in North America. 8 of them, as many as the stars in the Big Dipper on Alaska's state flag. Yellow stars sewn to a blue background, flapping from a pole over the roadside. Flag that Benny Benson, age 13, an Alateek Indian of Seward, formerly housed at the Jesse Lee Memorial Home for Orphans in Unalaska, designed and submitted to a contest in 1927 and won. His crayoned masterpiece snapping above every broken down courthouse, chipped brick library, and death trap post office in the penultimate state accepted to the Union, known to its people as the Upper One. Though a design of the Northern Lights would have been my choice, those alien green curtains swirling over Mount McKinley, Denali, the tall one, during the coldest, darkest months of the subarctic year. Red starburst or purple-edged skirt of lightning, falling in vitreous waves over the stunted, ice-rimed treetops. Or in spring, candles of fireweed and the tiny ice blue flowers of the tundra. Tundra, a word that sounds like 1,000 caribou pouring down a gorge. But all that might be difficult for an orphan 7th grader to draw with 3 chewed up crayons and a piece of butcher paper, as would be these 8 giggling ravens with their shrewd eyes and silt shine wings, beaks like keloid scars, acrobats of speed and sheen, black boot of the bird family, unconcerned this moment with survival, though I hope they survive, whatever we have in store for them, and the grizzly bear and the club-footed moose, the muscular salmon, the oil spill seal and gull, and Raven's cousin, the bald eagle, who can dive at 100 miles per hour, can actually swim with massive butterfly strokes through the great glacial lakes of Alaska, her wingspan as long as a man. Architect of the 2-ton nest, assembled over 34 years with scavenged branches, threatened in all but 3 of the lower 48, but making, by God, a comeback if it's not too late for such lofty promises. And the homely marmot and the immigrant starling, I wish you luck. Whatever ultimate harm we do to this northernmost upflung arm of our country, our revolving world. But you, Epicurean raven, may you be the pole star of the apocalypse, you stubborn snow trudger, you quorum of 8 who jostle one another for a strip of plastic on the last endless day, the last endless night of our only sun's solar wind. Those glorious auroras, glassine gowns of Blake's angels, that almost invisible shine tugged and stretched between you like taffy from outer space, tattered ends gripped in your fur-crested beaks as we reel headlong into the dwindling unknown. Denizens of the frozen north, the last frontier, harbingers of unluck and the cold, bleak lack to come. So that's my piece of meat from the back porch. And now Elisa is going to get up, and I'm going to turn myself off so you don't look at me while I'm reading this, because you're going to want to look at Elisa, who is going to demonstrate the magic of the hula hoop, which is the title of this poem. Hula hoop. And it says, it has a little asterisk because it's a WAMO product and you cannot say hula hoop without the asterisk. Hula hoop, 1958. 5 years after my birth, the hula hoop was born, brightly striped, simple gift of my childhood. There was no way to wrap such round wonder, no way to contain the freedom it gave to my little girl hips. I remember stepping into it, perfect circle on the dirt that accepted my body whole, open as the month of May, saying yes to the tensile arms and legs, the curveless waist, the undeveloped breasts, their flat nipples, 2 pennies pulled from heaven. I applied the hollow circle to the small of my back, spread my feet apart, cocked a hip to one side, and tossed it into flight. It sank like a ring in the center of a lake, and I was the thrown stone. I practiced for hours, for days and months and years, until I harnessed the hoop's power, until it slid over my belly like a well-oiled gear, until I'd made of my body a brilliant machine. The women of my generation, I think, are better lovers because of that hoop. That was dynamically amazing. Oh my God.
I was worried that the poem was going to be really long.
No, I gave all kinds of facts about the hula hoop before the reading, and there is actually somebody who holds the record for, well, the first world record for doing a hula hoop was the 8-year-old Mary Jane Fries, who won a hooping endurance contest in 1976 by lasting 10 hours doing a hula hoop, you know. So
can I ask what I find it very hard to believe that those men invented this. I'm gonna guess that they like stole it from
they stole it from Australia,
right.
And we don't know what that rattan hoop, we don't know who made that, right? But my bet, right, is that it was women, because they would be the basket weavers. They would be the ones who would make the rattan hoop. So you're absolutely right.
You got, I mean, if your hips are loose, like childbirth is easier, menstruation woes can be alleviated sometimes.
Yeah. The hula hoop, one of the greatest inventions ever made for women.
Thank you for that poem. Thank you.
And one of the few non-violent toys, right? The hula hoop and the frisbee are just about the only non-violent toys that were ever made. And of course, you know. Thank you. Thank you, Ely.
Okay, so was that the last one, Dorianne? Okay, that's great. I was laughing. I was a little distracted by my laughing. So yeah, Dorianne's actually teaching a workshop right now. So there's no way to sign up for that one, but I'm hoping that she'll be with us during the next winter session teaching. That's my hope. And yeah, just stay tuned for that to see if she's going to be with us. I really, really hope so. She's fabulous. We have another fabulous reader, our final reader, who's an amazing poet. It is January Gill O'Neill, whose third book of poems is Rewilding. Her poems appear in the New York Times Magazine, the Academy of American Poets Poem a Day series, American Poetry Review, Poetry Magazine, and Plowshares, and many, many places. She has served as the executive director of the Massachusetts Poetry Festival and currently teaches creative writing at Salem State University. Join me in welcoming January Gill O'Neill.
Thank you. Oh, thanks, Jennifer. And thanks, Fine Arts Work Center. And how lucky am I that I get to go last, because I just heard and saw one of the best readings ever. So I am feeling very humble and gracious. And so thank you. So I will read my little poems, but I'm going to start out with one for the ladies, one for this fabulous group of writers. In the company of women. Make me laugh over coffee. Make it a double. Make it frothy so it seethes in our delight. Make my cup overflow with your small happiness. I want to hoot and snort and cackle and chuckle. Let your laughter fill me like a bell. Let me listen to your ringing and singing as Billie Holiday croons above our heads. Sorry, the blues are nowhere to be found. Not tonight, not here. No makeup, no tears. Only contours, only curves. Each sip takes back 1 pound. Each dry roasted swirl takes our soul. Can I have a refill? Just one more? Let the bitterness sink to the bottom of our lives. Let us take this joy to go. You know, I was trying to decide what to read, and I was like, I don't know what poems I have. And then I started to look through, and I'm like, oh yeah, I actually do have a lot of nature poems. It just happened that way. So I had a hard time choosing, but here we go. How to love. After stepping into the world again, there is that question of how to love, how to bundle yourself against the frosted morning, the crunch of icy grass underfoot, the scrape of cold wipers along the windshield, and convert time into distance. What song to sing down an empty road as you begin your morning commute? And is there enough in you to see, really see, the 3 wild turkeys crossing the street with their featherless heads and stilt-like legs in search of a morning meal? Nothing to do but hunker down, wait for them to safely cross. As they amble away, you wonder if they want to be startled back into this world. Maybe you do too, waiting for all this to give way to love itself, to look into the eyes of another and feel something. The pleasure of a new lover in the unbroken night, your wings folded around him on the other side of this ragged January, as if a long sleep has ended. So I live along the coast of Massachusetts, and there's a Salem poem, Mudlarking, Dead Horse Beach. They're buried just past Winter Island, where the 2-lane road winds around the boardwalk at Salem Willows. Dead Horse Beach, where the cold-blooded flanks and loins of workhorses were discarded far from Salem proper. Here, the earth has taken them back and given us silt. Why have I come here at low tide, mudlarking for bits of bottle and bone? Even the renegade sky has turned its back on every gray cloud to be here. It is the day before Mother's Day, the kids with him for the weekend. A breeze blows the new leaves of the willow tree sideways. Their low-hanging branches lift and fall against the wind on a hill just above a family reunion. The backs of brightly colored lawn chairs face me. I hear the occasional laugh, the faint smell of grill. Why have I come here today? What am I looking for? I've come to take off my shoes, to feel the blue and white shell fragments, beautiful broken muscles. I've come to feel ache under my feet, the deep ridges of shells worn down by salt and time, while their insides are luminescence. To hold one midnight in my hands is to embrace what's been lost. Fragments litter this beach. Reeds, shards of driftwood, whelks, sea glass, a rusted chain, and this, a gray anchor attached to a red rope. Somewhere on the seam of sea, there's a small wish unbridled adrift. And so I'm going to read a few new ones from a manuscript I've finished, and I'm just waiting to see what happens. So I don't have the rhythm for the poems yet. So The Beyond Place. Eat for the hunger that comes, says our guide, as I try my first service berry, purplish globes, sweet with an almond finish. I am a first-time forager, marveling this marvel of landscape made lush by the rush of the Hoosacs' underground waters. The name, he tells us, was translated from Algonquin as the Beyond Place. Generous June. Every tree surrenders its green flags while we crouch ground low, spy the wide splays of leaves, their dark, papery undersides sending messages from below. This plant is edible. This one will kill you. I climbed out of one world, tongue first, to taste another. City girl, chicken of the woods. Yet here, the humid wind softens the cicada's strident song as we root and snip, bend stems back to the point of breaking to discover wild carrot, or is it hemlock? Stick with the berries, I tell myself, a rough twang, a touch of funk, trust the joy I know. So this one's very new. So I spent some time in Mississippi. So Morgan will have to touch base because I'd love to hear about your experience. So I was down there at the middle of 2019 and into 2020, and came back up here in the middle of the pandemic. So, but Mississippi is fascinating. It's not what you expect, and then it's exactly what you expect. And everywhere I walked, I just felt this legacy, this tragic legacy of the enslaved. So last year we went back and we had a chance to to canoe down the Mississippi River. So I was finally able to write a poem about it. The river remembers. Here, the water is silt brown, stretches mile wide, flat as a washed out conveyor belt, an unhemmed rumble strip. I can't read the river, can't see my hand when it plunges elbow deep to feel the cool against the Mississippi heat, hot as a dog's mouth. Here we canoe for hours through swirling eddies, watch the trash barges and the tugboats travel downstream. The river glitters as broken glass. Here, everything is fluid. In lower Mississippi, the south, where the two-lane blacktop cuts through an infinity of flat, cotton, soybean, corn, farm, tumble down shack. Creeks and rivers bifurcate the land like blood veins. Here, the GPS gives up. New islands form at the current's whim, and what is untouched grows lush and verdant. Willow and privet border the collapsing coastline. A carp leaps into the boat when it hears us coming. We stop here in an oxbow. Gumbo mud sticks to our feet. River rock, plastic, fossils, gar. Raccoon and coyote leave tracks in the rust-colored sand. The slaves, sold down the river, hid here, waited for their chance to escape north, hid in caves, fled to the Twin Cities and Canada, their fate at the mercy of the river's next rise. Here's the nadir of our suffering, which started in one place to end in another. Here's where flow and marvel and history converge. This harm joy, this beautiful sadness. And I will close with this one. I wish I could hula hoop. I actually can, but I don't have one here, but I can cartwheel. And so this is my cartwheel poem. And maybe later, if anybody wants to see me cartwheel, I'm happy to do it. Cartwheel. And when no one is looking, I will spin my Ferris wheel body into a patch of late autumn leaves. Pretend I am a kaleidoscope in what I can only describe as a soul walk. My neurons navigating how fast and how hard I move in space. I should be dead, or at least badly injured, fighting gravity in jeans and an oversized sweatshirt that flips above my head, each move betraying me as the revolution happens. I have never been a gymnast. I'm not limber. Can't to this day touch my toes or do the splits. How have I not broken a bone? Sooner or later, all our graves come for us, my legs cloud swimming towards the coming world. Back straight, tummy tucked, my stance wide and precise as I wager a bet on myself. What I want to say is this. All this time, I have been able to balance my little life in my hands, that I go through the turn and keep landing on my feet is a goddamn miracle. Thank you.
That was great, Jan. Thank you so much. That's a great poem to end the evening with. I'm going to wrap things up, but before I do, I want to say that January is teaching on October 25th, the 24 Pearl Street workshop titled Tiny Miracles and Everyday Wonders. Please join her for her live workshop via Zoom. It's going to be great. Yeah, that was so good. And I do want to see, I'm going to hold you to that. I want to see you cartwheel at some point. So this has been an absolutely wonderful reading. I hope to meet all of you here again virtually in early 2022 for another Wilder Words reading. For more information about 24 Pearl Street workshops and Fine Arts Work Center summer program, again, as I said many times, visit our website, falk.org, and sign up for our newsletter. And I just want all of you to keep reading, keep writing, keep dreaming, and have a very good night. Thank you so much.
Thank you.